Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products. Lots to do here in hour number 2. I want to talk about the LSU basketball players entering the transfer portal. They're going to have a lot of new guys next year. And then we'll talk a little bit about LSU baseball as well. We got March Madness to get to. So lots and lots to do here over the next hour of the show. Appreciate you starting your week with us. The Saints are starting their week in Miami. And a lot of the Saints brass is there to watch Cam Ward. I don't think that's a very worthwhile endeavor, because I think Cam Ward's going to be the first pick in the draft, and I don't think the Saints are going to be drafting first. So they can go. That's all well and good, but I don't think that much is going to come from that. Now, another development that is reported to be going on this evening is the Saints are going to sit down to dinner with Quinn Ewers from Texas. And this is intriguing. We know right now that the Saints have a decision to make over the course of what I believe will probably be the next 13 months about the future at quarterback. Is it Derek Carr? Is it Spencer Rattler? Is it another veteran that you can sign to take Carr's place? Are you going to draft one this year? Or are you going to draft one next year? Like, all the cards are on the table. Like, you could do any of that. And it's the next big deal. The first big deal was, who's your coach? You got that taken care of. Now, who's the quarterback? And there are a lot of options. And Quinn Ewers as an option sounds interesting. Now, last week, we discussed Jackson Dart. And I told you at 9, which is where you would probably have to take Dart, I did not like it. It's too risky to take a very questionable quarterback at 9 when you've got holes everywhere. You got a hole at left guard, maybe a hole at one of your tackles. You got gaps at wide receiver. You're aging at running back. You're aging at linebacker. Gaps at corner. Need to fill a hole at safety. Like, you got holes everywhere. So at 9, you need to start addressing some holes. I'm fully on board that quarterback's the most important issue, but it's not imminently solvable at 9. It's not likely solvable at 9. But you start to talk about maybe drafting Quinn Ewers in the 3rd round, now you have my interest. Because 3rd-round picks are not as likely to be hits as 1st-round picks. And so, to me, you've got a better chance to take a flyer. You take a flyer and it doesn't hit in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, okay. You miss in the 1st round, that's a big problem. So Ewers is interesting. Because I told you, as far as Jackson Dart goes, no, you just roll with Rattler. With Ewers, because of where you would pick him, 3rd round-ish, I don't know everything, but that feels like about where he's set to go. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a high upside player that could be the future of your franchise. Maybe not, but could be. Ewers started for 3 years at Texas. He started, over the course of those 3 seasons, 36 games. He threw for 9,100 yards and 68 touchdowns. This past season, he threw for 3,400 yards and 31 touchdowns. Now, he threw 12 picks, which is too much, but 31 scores. He's 6'3". He's got a lot of playing experience under his belt. He's physically gifted. He was hurt this past year. And he's got a chance. So I do not like at all taking Jackson Dart in the first round. You need to address offensive line there. You need to address playmakers there. You need to address defensive back there. Third round, I'm all in on taking a quarterback. Because if you can hit on that, it turns your rebuild around like that. Because now you've got a cheap quarterback entrenched for 4 to 5 years on that deal, and you can start getting to bringing some guys in. You can spend some more money in free agency. Carr's contract comes off the books. You got to continue to draft well. Okay, you're off and running. You got to hope that you found your Dak Prescott, that you found your Jalen Hurts, that you found your Kirk Cousins. The best way to go about getting a quarterback, if you look around the league, is to take one early in the first round. The most beneficial way to do it, if you can get it right, is to get one in the middle rounds. And it doesn't happen a ton. You look around the league, most of the quarterbacks were top 15 picks. But I don't think that the Saints are in a position to get one of those guys in this draft. So you start to look at other options. And I think stockpiling options with mid-round draft picks is not a harmful thing to do. It may not be helpful. They may all look like Rattler. They may all look like Haener. They may all look like Ian Book. They may all look, I mean, you know the list of guys that Sean Payton brought in. None of them amounted to anything. But the one time you hit and you get Brock Purdy, it changes everything. And it's not like a thing that doesn't happen ever. Like I just pointed to 4 very prevalent examples of mid to late round picks that hit. That's what? Quarter of the league? So I think this is a great avenue to explore. And if the Saints want to jump on Quinn Ewers with a mid-round pick, I think that would be fantastic. You let him sit behind Derek Carr for a year, duel it out with Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener, intense training camp, maybe give him some reps late in this season. If all kind of seems lost, you give Kellen Moore the ability to develop him as he helped do with Dak Prescott, as he continued to do with Jalen Hurts. And maybe you've got something that changes the course of your franchise. You're probably not going to change the course of your franchise with a third-round pick at middle linebacker. You can certainly help find Demario Davis's replacement. That'd be great. But you can change everything with a quarterback. So I think it's worth a swing. You see how that risk-reward swings once you get out of those first couple of rounds. The Saints desperately need to hit on a couple of early picks as starters. And then you can take your swing a little bit later. And if it doesn't work and you have another bad year, maybe you move up in the draft to the 4th pick overall next year and there's a quarterback that falls right into your lap right there. And that's a fine way to do it as well. But right now, the way the Saints are put together, you look at the way that everybody views the Saints, which is that they're not nearly a playoff team. I think taking one middle round draft pick and spending it on a quarterback makes a lot of sense, and I would be for it. No Dart in the first, Ewers in the third. I'm all for it. And the Saints will meet with Quinn Ewers later today after they watch Cam Ward throw it around a little bit. And we'll see. Draft is rapidly approaching. We're getting towards April here. We'll ramp up our draft coverage here on the Hunt Palmer Show. You can find all of our Saints content at Hunt on Saints on YouTube as well. All right, hour 2 is off and running. When we come back, LSU basketball has had 3 players at least at this point going to the transfer portal. I've got my thoughts on what the next month needs to look like for Matt McMahon, and we'll get into all that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is that website. Every car that is on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. When I say luxury brand of vehicle, there are probably a couple of brands that pop into your brain. They've been around for a while. Genesis may not be one of those. They haven't been around as long, but it's a luxury brand of vehicles. If you have not gotten behind the wheel of a Genesis, just do that. Get behind the wheel. Let one of their brand ambassadors walk you through the process. If you're thinking, I don't like going to dealerships, I understand. That has been a bad experience for people at times. It won't be at Genesis of Baton Rouge, but you don't even have to go. Just give them a call. Say, hey, I'd like to test drive this, that. they'll drive it to you. At work, at home, one of their brand ambassadors will pull up, hand you the keys, they'll get in the car with you, and off you go. It's part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. You get 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance. It's all there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Check them out online, genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
So you may not be aware of this, but the NCAA basketball transfer portal opened today. There are only 16 teams left, so a lot of folks going to explore some options. There will be thousands of players in the transfer portal today, and some of those have already come from LSU. Earlier today,
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
it was made public that Tyrell Ward, Mike Williams, and Corey Chest have all entered the transfer portal. You take those three and you add Cam Carter, Jordan Sears, Jai Bailey,
Derek
Fountain. That's 4. So that's 7 guys that are out. And I'll be as blunt as I can be here. There is not a player on this roster with eligibility remaining that LSU cannot recover from losing. There's just not. This is a team that went 3-15 in the SEC, 3-16 if you count the conference tournament. And Cam Carter was Hercules to get it there. So this is now a situation where Matt McMahon has to take his whiteboard, and on one corner of it, you got to write whatever the amount of money that LSU has in the piggy bank. And you've got to allot that for as many scholarships as you have. They will determine who they want to prioritize bringing back. They will determine who probably needs to look elsewhere. This is not unique to LSU basketball. This is the nature of all of collegiate athletics right now. And the fact of the matter is that LSU is making radical changes to how they approach this financially, and now they've got to go make that work. When you look around the really good teams in the SEC, most of them are built on the backs of transfers, and a lot of times those transfers come from smaller schools. Have you taken a look at the Sweet 16? Do you see any MAC schools there? Do you see any schools from the Southland or the Sun Belt? Got any West Coast Conference schools in the Sweet 16? The answer is no. Because all the good players from those leagues leave at the end of the year. And now Mark Sears plays for Alabama and Janai Bruin plays for Auburn. And Tennessee's best player is a transfer from a small school. Like, everywhere. Aside from Duke, who's doing it largely with a couple 3 lottery pick freshmen, like, everybody's building this way. So I don't know what the going rate is for point guards and small forwards. I don't know which ones LSU is prioritizing or isn't. And I don't know who LSU wants back on this team next year. But the fact of the matter is that if you want to be competitive in the SEC in 2025, 2026, you need an entire roster of different players. Because you went out there with these guys and you went 3-15 and you don't have Cam Carter coming back. Now, that's not to say that every single basketball player outside of Cam Carter that played for LSU is an awful player. But productivity was down for just about everybody. I mean, Jordan Sears shot 32% from three. Victorious Miller shot 32% from three. Jai Bailey shot 26% from three. Curtis Givens shot 25% from three. Mike Williams shot 25% from three. Corey Chest was a 45% free throw shooter. 45%. Curtis Givens shot 59% on free throws. You got annihilated on the backboard most games. You had turnover problems early. Like, this just wasn't a roster that was good enough. And I don't know what Jalen Reed was or wasn't going to be. Against the tomato cans they played in November, he played in 8 games. He shot 60% from the floor. He was averaging 11 points and 6.5 rebounds a game. And I know for sure that the staff really liked the progress that Jalen Reed made last summer into the fall prior to the season. That, in my guess, is they would like to get him back. That's my guess. And we'll see if there are other guys back. Like Curtis Givens and Victorious Miller and Robert Miller are freshmen on this team. And you saw some flashes from all of them. Like Miller had some games where he got going scoring. And Givens, though he didn't make shots, didn't turn the ball over very much as a freshman point guard in the SEC. You saw, like, in games at Oklahoma against Arkansas, like Robert Miller showed that he can score a little bit at 6'10" and move a little bit and use his footwork and use the glass. But then there were games where all three of those guys were overmatched. Now, there are stories all over LSU basketball recent history of guys who develop over time. I think of Garrett Temple, who on his freshman team in 2006, and they went to the Final Four, like, that's a guy who just played defense. Like, he was awesome at defense. He couldn't shoot a lick, but he just played defense. And by the time he played on the 2009 team that won the SEC, he was a good shooter. And I promise you can't hang around the NBA as long as he has. If you can't shoot a little bit, he progressed. Skylar Mays didn't even want to shoot jump shots when he was a freshman. By the time he was a senior on that great team that won the SEC, he was a dead-eye shooter, better than 40%. Got a lot better. Tim Quarterman was lost as a freshman. Had those long, gangly arms, and and by the time he played on the last team he played on, which, yes, didn't end the way we thought it would, but they had their moments, he had a triple-double against Kentucky. Like, you can progress. The question is, do you want to take a gamble on progression in a must-win year next year, or do you want to go get a guy that's a little bit more seasoned? Do you want to gamble with the 20-year-old? Do you want to go get the 23-year-old? I don't know how attractive LSU is going to be. There's not a lot of juice behind the program right now. You were 3-15 in the league, but we've cited now over the last month all of these examples of teams having a renaissance one year to the next. Michigan this year, I'm struggling with what to call it, the year that they just lost this weekend. Michigan, obviously, we talk about Missouri. South Carolina did it in reverse. Like, it can be done. And this is going to be a different game than Matt McMahon has ever played. Matt McMahon has never gone to war in the recruiting sense with a bunch of cash. I think Matt McMahon has been recruiting a lot of his career on relationships and development and all those kinds of things. Well, it's time to try a new approach. And trust me, I am not sitting here telling you, I mean, just buy in. This is going to be great. They're going to turn the whole thing around. Like, a healthy amount of skepticism is completely warranted when you sit through the 3 months of basketball that we did here in Baton Rouge. But reality is reality, and this is the program that you've got. And they're going to try to step it up. And as you see guys go into the transfer portal, I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over that. You're seeing guys go in the transfer portal that contributed to 3-15. It's time to bring in guys that are going to produce a better result than that. So I had a conversation with someone today, and the tone was like, we understand the mission here. We have a plan of attack, and these transfer portal entries are part of that plan. You have to have a lot of roster space open to go fill it the way that LSU knows they need to fill it. And there's going to be a lot of competition. I mean, like Texas A&M had 8 seniors that just left. 8. Going to be a lot of overturn in College Station, and that's going to be the case at a lot of places in the SEC and the highest level of college basketball. LSU's got some cash, and they're going to go figure it out. Now you've got a deal where there are only 16 teams worth of players that are playing. Everybody else has the ability to jump in the transfer portal, and you've got to start hosting visitors, and you got to start locking guys up. You know, we talked 2 years ago about how tough it was for Jay Johnson in the hotel room in Omaha trying to convince guys to transfer to him when he can't visit them and they can't visit him. He's trying to get Luke Holman to commit to LSU while he's trying to beat Tennessee and then Florida in the national championship game. That's hard to do. Well, LSU doesn't have any of those distractions. They're not in the Sweet 16. They're not going to the Final Four in 2 weeks. They can sit here and host visitors and throw money all over the place. And I know that that's not the greatest image to a lot of you. It's reality. We know the plan of action here for LSU. The question is, can they execute it? And can they not only get enough guys, can they get the right guys to completely change the tide of this program? You've got essentially what you're boiling down to a blank canvas. You're not going to have a lot of obligations to a lot of guys on scholarship. You got to keep the ones that you want, whether that's 1 guy, 4 guys, 3 guys, 2 guys, however many. You got to decide who you want to keep, do that, then go fill the rest of the shelves. So I expect the next 10 days to be crazy. I expect LSU to have more guys enter the transfer portal, and I expect some guys to commit to LSU from the transfer portal. And we'll kind of give thoughts on that as the new roster begins to take shape. But as far as the old one,
how to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Woohoo! Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And singing Kumbaya when guys walk out the door after going 3-15. Sorry, I don't have a lot of tears to shed for that. That wasn't good enough. So that's kind of where LSU basketball is. Beck, what do you think about bringing in 9 new guys?
Yeah,
they got 3 signees.
Yes,
and you figure they'll probably keep a couple guys off this roster. So in reality, you're probably looking at 6 or 7 transfers.
Yeah, I think if you can keep Jalen Reed and I think Robert Miller showed a lot of promise. If you can keep at least those 2 guys, and maybe Damian Collins sticks around. I mean, he's stuck around through a lot of he hasn't played a lot.
It's been a long and winding road for Damian Collins.
It has. So I wouldn't be surprised if he sticks around. But you know, this seems to be just where besides the big top 10 or 12 programs, it seems to be. This is what teams are going to have to go through every year. You're going to be reinventing your roster pretty much every year, and you just have to, you have to trust or hope that the coaches are able to scout out these transfers and pick the right guys. This year, it didn't seem like they did. Last year, it seemed like they hit pretty well on some of the transfers. This year, not so much. So it's going to be a test of the coaching and whether or not they can actually find the right transfers that want to play here and end up playing better than some of the guys they brought in this year.
I mentioned the names, but it's like it's Chaz Lanier at Tennessee, who is I think the SEC Player of the Year. They got him in as a transfer. You look at Walter Clayton, who's just hitting buckets for Florida. I mean, he started at a small school. Mark Sears at Ohio, Janai Broom at Morehead State. Like, these are the stories. It's not all like Henry Coleman from Texas A&M came from Duke, but that's not that. Those are more rare. And you're not swimming in the Cooper Flag waters. So you gotta evaluate the right transfer. And Nate Oates and Bruce Pearl are doing that at a high level. Todd Golden has done that at a high level, and LSU has missed on some guys. They've taken in 3-point guards from a lower level that have not been able to translate their play from that level to the SEC. That's happened 3 straight times with 3 undersized point guards. Like, you got to do better than that. You've got to go find Mark Sears is a small point guard. That's the guy you need.
Chaz Lanier was in North Florida was where he played.
Exactly. Yeah. Dalton Connect was from Northern Colorado last year. Like, it's just
Rick Barnes has got it.
You don't have to raid the roster of NC State and Michigan. You've got to find the right guys. And there are enough good basketball players at these little schools for LSU to get the right guys. It's just a matter of can you identify them, and then can you allocate the resources, meaning the money, properly to get them in. So when LSU takes the floor in November next year, it's going to look completely different. And you just got to hope that it's for a good thing. And then you're not going to know, because some of these guys the guys that they bring in are going to have gaudy statistics where they played. The question is, can you make it translate? And right now, LSU has not. Yeah, Jordan Wright was good enough, but there have been too few KJ Williams who was great at Murray State and then was great at LSU. There have been a lot of guys that have made that move up and couldn't hang. So we'll see. That's LSU hoops here on this Monday. We'll step aside. We will come back a little more LSU baseball next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
This is the time of the day where I start to realize that I'm not sleeping quite as much as I used to. I think there's an adrenaline rush that comes in the morning, I think, and then at this point you're kind of realizing, okay, body's not quite getting what it's used to.
How many hours did you get last night, Hunt?
So he eats every 3 hours right now, and so on that schedule he eats at midnight, 3 a.m., 6 a.m. I do midnight and then go to sleep at 12:50. My wife does 3 a.m. and then I do 6 to get up and start the day. So I'm going to bed a little after 1 and getting up at 5:30.
Okay.
So you're talking about 4 hours ish.
All right.
So I get up and right when I finish the 6 o'clock feed, this is here you have 2 kids. This is what you signed up for. I finished the 6 o'clock feed and put him back in the crib at 6:45, and then at 6:45 that's when it's time for Myers to get up and go to school. So you go straight from that to the chaos that is the next thing. But at that point in the day, I'm ready to roll and you got enough juice. But then after lunch, which I ate too much at lunch, had a little meeting down the street and I ate too much. And so I'm got to kind of slog through the last 30 minutes here. That's not exactly the best approach, but that's just the reality for 8 weeks here.
You'll get through it, Hunt.
It'll be over pretty quick and he'll sleep through the night pretty quick and then we'll be on and off and running. But for right now, we're looking at about 4 hours a night, and that's a little less than we had been working with previously. So LSU, so here's the deal. Our audience kind of turns over every 20, 25 minutes or so. So if you listen to us for 2 hours straight, I really appreciate that. If that's you, I'm going to rehash some of the stuff I did at the very top of the show here. So it's been 90 minutes, but I'm going to get a little bit deeper into it, and I'm going to bring in some of the SEC teams at this point because it was a very interesting weekend in the Southeastern Conference, as they're all going to be. Georgia went to Gainesville and swept Florida. They hit 13 home runs, and Florida only scored 13 runs. I've had Florida in the top 2 or 3 of my power rankings. That's going to be hard to justify coming up on Wednesday. But Georgia looks incredible swinging the bat. They're 5-1 in league play. Arkansas just clobbered South Carolina. They scored double-digit runs in every game. They're hitting the ball. They really are swinging the bats well, and that's a terrifying thing for SEC teams. Tennessee dropped their first game of the season last Tuesday and then lost on Thursday against Alabama. They came back and won the next 2 games of that series, so they're 5-1 as well. You saw Texas, they're 5-1, and LSU is in a big group at 4-2. They're tied with Alabama, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Vanderbilt and Ole Miss. The team's in some real trouble. Kind of shocking. Florida and Texas A&M 0-6. 0-6 in the league. And I think I'll probably abandon this conversation starting next week for about 3 or 4 weeks. But I think it's important to kind of put your feet on the ground here after LSU looked very bad for the last 14 innings of the weekend. That will not be the last 14 innings where they look bad. That will not be the last series that they lose. Keep in mind, the 2023 team lost 2 SEC weekends. So it's just part of it. It is a 30-game grind, and you went on the road to a top 15 team in Texas, and you played great for a game and a half, and you played bad for a game and a half, and they came out with a 2 out of 3 advantage in their home ballpark. But LSU sits here right now at 4-2. They're 22-3. They've got a lineup that is so deep and so balanced and really, really productive, although they got tied in knots on Sunday. You've got an ace that looks the part of an ace. You've got two options out of the bullpen that you think are really, really strong options. And then you've got a group of like 5 or 6 talented pitchers that you need 2 or 3 to emerge from. It goes without saying that if Anthony Ianson and Chase Shores and William Schmidt and Connor Ware and Maverick Rizzi pitch like they have the last 2 weeks, for the next 8 weeks, LSU is going to be in a little bit of trouble. But every single year, not like some years, every single year, guys get better with time. How many times did you need to watch Paul Maneri's teams excel late in the season? Whether it was the 2008 team that took off and went nuts, the Rally Possum team in 2016 that went nuts, how many times did they win the SEC tournament? Like, you had teams that got better with time. Jay Johnson's team 2 years ago, you had Paul Skeens at the front of the rotation. Ty Floyd was hit or miss. Thatcher Hurd was in and out of the rotation. Riley Cooper was getting knocked all over the yard. Like, you didn't have a great pitching staff when Garrett Edwards and Chase Shores went down. I vividly remember it was in South Carolina, and I tweeted, like, I don't know if they can recover from this. They don't have enough guys that can figure it out. And by the end of the season, Thatcher Hurd was throwing it great, and Ty Floyd was throwing it great, and Riley Cooper was throwing it great, and Nate Ackenhausen was throwing it great, and Gavin Guidry was throwing it great, and none of those guys were that good in March and early April. But they got better. Last year, you know how that story went. And guys came on, developed into an ace. Holman was pretty good start to finish, but certainly was good late. Griffin Herring was really steady all the way through. But Christian Little played a huge role until he got hurt. So you just gotta realize this is a long, long race. And I know that when we watch LSU baseball, we watch it through a championship lens. We don't watch it the same way Auburn watches their team. We don't watch it the same way that Georgia watches their team. We watch it through a championship lens. And we've seen enough championship teams roll through here that you know what they look like as their finished product. This team is not at its finished product. So I'm not telling you that they're going to figure it out and win the SEC and go 21-9 and not lose another weekend the rest of the way and win the national championship. I'm not telling you that's a guarantee. But I'm telling you, this is just part of the process. They're going to have games where the bullpen is not good moving forward. They're going to have a weekend or 2 or 3 where they don't win the weekend. They're going to go on the road and face a tough pitcher and lose. Like, the thing about baseball is, and especially when you're at this point in non-conference play, LSU is 18-1. So you've pretty much eliminated the non-conference risk at this point. Yeah, you could theoretically drop 4 midweek games the rest of the way, but how many do you have left? You got 8 weekends left, and you probably have 1 where you don't play a midweek at the end. So you probably have 6 or 7 midweeks left. 6 midweeks left.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If you go 4-2 in those, you've lost 2 midweek games all year. Like, there's not a lot of risk in the midweek in the non-conference schedule left. So what you've got is the SEC schedule to make what it is. And as I mentioned before, they threw 1 pitch against Missouri. You're trying to get to 18-12. 18-12 will get a top 8. I can't swear by that by oath, but I feel really good about it. I feel really confident that an 18-win LSU team will get a top 8 national seed. And that's all you're looking for. That's all you need. So you're talking about a team that from this point forward needs to go 14-8. Sorry, that's not right. They're 4-2. They need to go 18-12. You need to go 14-10. 14-10. That's a lot of wiggle room. That's just barely winning one more than your opponent on weekends. They put themselves in a nice spot at 4-2. And you still have weekends coming up against a Mississippi State team that has not been good, against a Texas A&M team that can't figure anything out, South Carolina is 1-5 in the league. So, yeah, you've still got to play Arkansas. Yeah, you still got to play Tennessee. There are tough games ahead. Alabama looks to be pretty stout. But you don't have to be perfect. And it doesn't have to be a finished product right now. They got to keep going to practice, keep getting out on the mound, stay healthy as possible, and see if that natural progression happens with this team. I can't promise you that LSU is going to be awesome in June. But I can promise you that they're in a really good spot right now based on their record and the key components to this team. You need better starting pitching on the weekend after Anderson. You need better relief pitching that throws more strikes. But you're in a good spot. It's a good team. And you fell a couple innings short over the weekend. Now it's time to re-lock in, play Louisiana Lafayette tomorrow. Try to avoid that landmine. They got a losing record right now, but they played a good weekend over the weekend. I think they swept South Alabama. No, it took 2 out of 3 from South Alabama. And then you welcome Mississippi State. And if you can take care of them the way that their 2 opponents previously did, then you're in a really good spot. And that's the case. It's a long, long season. And I was petrified 2 years ago about the bullpen, and I gave up on them last year. Said I don't expect it to get any better. And I'm guarding against that in a big way. Now, I wouldn't even be close to that right now. It's March. But I know that there are a lot of people that are watching that bullpen going, I think we're cooked. I don't think this team's got it. And right now, they're not pitching good enough. That's not arguable. They're not pitching good enough. But in an offensive sport, when you've got a really good offense and a good ace, just give yourself a little bit of time. And keep winning games while you're at it. And they're doing that right now. They're 4-2 in league play. All right, that's a look at a little bit of LSU and SEC baseball. When we come back, we will close it out. I want to talk about Dan Hurley as well. Can he just chill? That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, fantastic to work with on the insurance front. You can believe me, or you can go to their Google reviews. How often do you go to Google to write a review for your insurance broker? Probably not that often. Well, it happens for the Highland Insurance Group over 100 times. They've had clients that have gone to Google and given them positive rankings because they're awesome. They're an independent broker, meaning they've got contracts with dozens of carriers. They know where to place your commercial insurance. They can do it. So give them a call. Check them out online at HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Things up here. Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs. It's Gulf Coast Office Products. Always fun when we can bring our guy Brock Cantro on. He athletic director over at Baton Rouge Community College. They got a huge event coming up on Thursday. Drip, Sip, and Jam. Some of the greatest names in LSU athletics history will be there to tell us a little bit about it. Brock joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. How are you, sir?
What's going on, Hunt? Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. Well, tell us about this coming up on Thursday. Dale Brown, John Brady, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Ryan Terrio, Brad Cressy. I've heard of these guys. What are they doing with you?
Those are just my buddies, man. I'm having my first real big fundraiser for Baton Rouge Community College, and I've known those guys for years and years. And I just wanted to share it with them and let people see them as well. It's been a long time since people get to interact with those guys. Dale's getting a little bit old. Mahmoud doesn't come to town very often, so as a special treat, besides getting to hang out and donate some money to the RCC Athletics, you get to see some pretty cool people.
Yeah, Stanley Roberts will be there as well. Brad Cressy, who got the game-winning hit in the 2000 College World Series. Kiana Chaney also involved. So tell everybody where they can find y'all.
We can find us. The easiest place is to go to www.brccathletics.com and find some tickets there. Should be a super event. We got Sip Social doing the drinks for us. We have some espresso martinis. I got Michael Anderson from Boot Up Customs that's coming to teach people how to paint their shoes and apparel. And then Pants Party, which is my favorite band on the planet, is coming to close it out with a couple sets before we get out of there.
Awesome. It'll be on Thursday. It's the Drip, Sip, and Jam from Baton Rouge Community College. You got a national championship pick in college basketball. We got 16 teams left.
Oh, man. Florida looks pretty dang good.
They're good. UConn gave them a scare, but they stared them right back down and took down the two-time defending champion.
They did. Yep.
I'm looking for anybody that's not in the SEC. That's what I'm looking for.
I can't ever decide if I want the SEC to win or not win. I just can't figure that out sometimes. But I think Florida's got a good chance, man. They're deep, but they defend, they can score bunches. They look hard to beat.
Walter Clayton can get a shot whenever he wants, and he was knocking them down against UConn back on Saturday. All right, Brock, we appreciate some time. We'll see you out there on Thursday.
Thanks. I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. That's Brock Cantro, the Director of Athletics over at Baton Rouge Community College. So if you want to check that out, it's the Drip, Sip, and Jam. As I mentioned, Dale Brown, John Brady, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Stanley Roberts, Ryan Terrio, Brad Cressy, Kiana Chaney, all out there helping out the folks at Baton Rouge Community College. They had a great men's basketball season this year. Brock's doing some awesome things over there at BRCC, so go check them out on Thursday. All right, back. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All righty, first one here. Over the weekend, we heard or found out about Texas firing Rodney Terry after another middling season, and they're going to be hiring Xavier Sean Miller as the next head coach of the Longhorns. Sean Miller to the Horns. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it. I think that's a good hire. He's won. He was obviously very good at Arizona before we know everything hit the fan, just like it did here in Baton Rouge. And he went to Xavier and now headed down to the SEC. The SEC has got, it's just star-studded. Now you realize that Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams have moved on from the ACC, as has Jim Boeheim. Like, you've just got a lot of changing of the guard over there. When you look at the biggest names in coaching in college, you look to the SEC, and Sean Miller fits that bill for sure. So we'll see what Texas can do. It's a tough league.
All right, next one, sticking with college basketball. Dan Hurley continues to put himself in the headlines for the wrong reasons. After the Huskies lost, he had a few choice words to say walking through the tunnel. Dan Hurley needs to chill out. Take it or leave it.
I've got to take this. I'm not even joking. I realize, personally, I need to, dial up my intensity at times. I'm just so laissez-faire and relaxed about just about everything that's not the perfect way to be.
Uniforms.
Unless it's uniforms, then I get a little jazzed up. But, I'm relaxed. I'm not a, disciplinarian or stickler. I'm not very intense. And I need to have a little bit more of that. But he is, I don't know how else to phrase this. He's a jerk. You can't go up to, does he not realize that the camera is on him at all times? He's telling officials not to turn their back on him because he's the best coach in the bleeping sport. He's walking through the tunnel telling Baylor team, I hope they don't screw you like they screw us, to put it more kindly. He's just a jerk. I don't have another way to put it. And he might be really nice to his family, and he might do some really charitable things in stores. I don't know. But this is not a one-time thing. This is every single month. He does something that's just mean or immature or disrespectful. And for a guy that's in the spotlight as much as he is, I don't understand why he can't just chill out.
Yeah, it's strange. And I don't know that I don't know if it's just because there wasn't as much. I don't know why this, has it just become this? I know that he's always been a fiery coach, but it seems like obviously this year
he comes by that honestly. His dad is a famous high school coach there, and but he's always been in the shadow of his brother.
Yeah,
and he's finally emerged from that, and now he's the biggest name in the sport coaching wise.
And they struggled this year, so I think that probably has something to do with it.
You want to coach hard at practice or whatever, but just being roundly unpleasant most of the time is just not necessary to do your job.
Yeah.
I get you want to be locked in, you want to be a disciplinarian, you want to run a tight ship, you want things done your way, but don't act like a third grader, which is, he's acting like a third grader. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. I don't really, I don't see, I see if anyone is attempting to defend the behavior, to me, it doesn't make any sense why you would defend this. You just...
Well, UConn fans would because they got a bunch of trophies.
Well, yes, that's true. But at the same time, the old standby is win with class and lose with class. And it doesn't seem like he's figured that out.
Do either one.
I don't think he can do either one. So That's take it or leave it.
That's it. Take it or leave it. All right. That was a great game. It was a little bit closer than it probably was because they threw the 3 in at the end. But like Clayton making those shots late, I mean, that was some high level stuff. I thought when they got down inside 4 minutes that Hurley would get them to the finish line because he's such a good coach and they would get it done. But Florida just had better dudes. Like Clayton was just better than anybody that UConn had on the floor. So that was a great game. And it's really fun to watch the little schools score those early upsets, and everybody's watching McNeese punk Clemson and all that kind of stuff. But when it gets to Sweet 16, Elite 8 time, you want the big boys, and you got a lot of big boys. Unfortunately, there are 7 from the SEC, which is a problem,
including Ole Miss. That was a great win for them.
Yeah, played very, very well. Beard's just an awesome coach. There's no two ways about that. I don't know if he's the nicest guy around,
not.
But he's a great basketball coach. He's won at a very high level at Texas Tech and Ole Miss. So you do that, you got it figured out. All right, that's it for our Monday show. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. A lot of baseball talk, LSU football practice report, should the Saints sign Quentin Ewers. All that is wherever you find your sound. Just search Hunt Palmer Show. Got a busy show tomorrow. Get you ready for LSU and ULL from the box. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review coming up next. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place for a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.